Top stories in Asia.
A quicker, portable way of testing for COVID-19 in just 5 minutes.
To breaking news in the US and Europe.
US President-elect Joe Biden is set to formally introduce his top economic team.
With an eye on markets opening across the world.
Wall Street's major indices all closed the month with double-digit percentage gains.
It's the one bulletin that offers you a global perspective. World Tonight, daily, on CMA.
Macet, an Indonesian word that describes Jakarta's notorious traffic congestion. The introduction of the MRT is a definite game changer, and hopefully Macet will be a thing of the past for Southeast Asia's biggest capital.
Sakubari Smile, CNA, Jakarta.
Updating this hour's top stories. A defiant message from Myanmar's ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi. She says her NLD party will exist as long as the people exist. Those are her first comments since the military coup. The WHO calls on nations to ensure at least 10% of their populations are vaccinated by September. And India passes more than 300,000 COVID-19 deaths. The bleak milestone comes as the country battles a rise in black fungus cases in recovering patients. Exactly 510 days ago, China alerted the World Health Organization to a new cluster of mysterious pneumonia cases. The world has never been the same since. COVID-19 is testing humankind like never before. Economies and communities locked down, reopened, and locked down again. Pandemic fatigue is slowly but surely setting in. Earlier, one expert explained what pandemic fatigue entails and what the phenomenon actually stands for.
I think pandemic fatigue is very, very real, and it occurs with, when we are in the situation where we are dealing with the pandemic, we have no other ways to go. There's so much restrictions, there's so much helplessness that each one is feeling, and we have no end in sight. And we're just told to just go on and on to deal with it, right? And uncertainty continues to build up. And just when we thought we could see a little bit of light, suddenly everything crashes all over again. And, sometimes, and this time rather, is even closer to home. So many of the parents start to feel the heat because their children are involved in the whole situation. So it's no longer being very far away. Something that you watch on the news is coming closer and closer to us. So we're so tired after 1 year trying to deal with it, and we can't break out of it.
Taiwan is planning to extend its COVID-19 alert that's due to expire at the end of the week. The island is now at the second highest alert level. Well, despite tighter social restrictions, cases have continued to rise. In fact, Taiwan has added 590 new infections today, including a backlog of 256 cases. Authorities have been adjusting the tally due to delays in testing and reporting over the past week. Residents are worried about those large numbers. The health minister says infections have peaked last Monday and should continue to decline. Meanwhile, Taipei has completely banned dining in from today to curb a rising positivity rate. Taiwan's government is also facing growing pressure to accept vaccines from China. Opposition lawmakers say people's lives are at stake and that the real enemy is the virus, not the mainland. The island has inoculated just 1% of its population and has relied on AstraZeneca's shots, but the doses are running out rapidly. China is expected to produce more than 3 billion COVID-19 vaccine doses by the end of this year. It's also likely to become the first country in the world to administer 500 million jabs. This is despite shortages in some areas due to more people wanting to get vaccinated amid new outbreaks in Anhui and Liaoning provinces. National Health Commission says China has administered about 497 million doses as of the weekend. That's more than the US with 283 million doses. China started its vaccination rollout late last year, starting with people aged between 18 and 59. The country has now expanded the program to more groups, such as people aged 60 and above. Philippines is also looking to launch a COVID-19 vaccine mix and match trial next month. This as the country grapples with an unsteady supply of second doses. The trial is currently awaiting approval, and if approved, it will last 18 months, involving some 1,200 participants. The trial will focus on mixing China's Sinovac shot with other brands that the country has a steady supply of. The government hopes to vaccinate at least 500,000 citizens daily and achieve herd immunity by November. Belarus has rejected what unfounded Western accusations over a plane diversion. Its foreign ministry says the country acted legally after one of its fighter jets forced a commercial flight to divert from its flight path.
Belarus has sparked international outrage by forcing a Ryanair plane to divert to Minsk before arresting an opposition journalist on board. Belarus grounded the Ryanair passenger plane flying over its airspace on Sunday for what turned out to be false claims of a bomb on board. Although the flight was on its way to Lithuania from Greece, Belarusian authorities ordered a military fighter jet to escort it to the capital city of Minsk. According to local media, Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko had personally deployed the warplane. No explosives were found on board the jet. Instead, when it reached the ground, authorities detained one of the passengers, Belarusian journalist Roman Protasevich. 26-year-old Protasevich worked for online news service Nexta last year when it broadcast mass protests against Lukashenko. He's now wanted on extremism charges and is accused of inciting riots, allegations he denies. A passenger on board the aircraft said Protasevich had his head in his hands and was shaking when he realized the flight was diverted to Minsk. Later, as he was led away, he reportedly remarked, "I'll get the death penalty here."
When it was announced that we're going to land to Minsk, so the Romans stand up, quickly open the, let's say, luggage door, take the luggage, and was trying to split the things, like computer, give it to a girlfriend, iPhone or whatever it's called, phone, take to the girlfriend.
After 7 hours in Minsk, the flight retook its course and landed in Vilnius, Lithuania. Lithuania's president, Gitanas Nausėda, said Belarus must face consequences.
Reikia pažymėti, kad pastaruoju metu tokios atakos prieš opoziciją tapo jau sistemingos ir atrodo kaip vieningo.
Global leaders followed suit in their condemnation, including U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and head of EU's European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, who tweeted, quote, "Those responsible for the Ryanair hijacking must be sanctioned." Human rights groups say about 35,000 people have been detained in Belarus since August, and more than 1,000 criminal cases have been launched.
The top U.S. general for the Middle East believes his country's withdrawal from the region risks giving Russia and China a chance to fill the gap around the Gulf. And weapon sales would be one need that Moscow and Beijing could exploit. Frank McKenzie spoke to reporters in Saudi Arabia, and he talked about the region as an area of intense competition between great powers. He argues as the U.S. adjusts its posture there, America's two powerful rivals will be looking very closely to see if they can exploit a vacuum that opens. But on the other hand, General McKenzie says the strategy of doing more in a region with less military presence may actually prevent China and Russia from cashing in on any U.S. void. The early months of the Biden administration has seen it put more attention on Asia. This as American troops are being fully withdrawn from Afghanistan, while forced presence in Iraq and Syria is under review. The Pentagon has also moved ships, forces, and weapon systems out of other Middle East countries. Meanwhile, ties between Beijing and Moscow appear to be deepening. Both are neighbors heading for strategic and security consultation talks just days after Presidents Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin oversaw the launch of a nuclear energy project. Mr. Putin hailing relations as the best they have been in history, and Mr. Xi speaking of a strategic partnership of coordination for a new era. This warming relationship contrasts with their waning ties with the U.S. President Biden at odds with China over human rights, intellectual property, and economic policy, and Washington imposing sweeping sanctions on Moscow for harmful foreign activities. In other news, Italian authorities are set to begin an inquiry into the cause of a cable car accident that's left 14 dead and seriously injured a child. Israel